All right, welcoming everybody to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a source that you, the listeners, have been asking about for a while now, the fairy tale, going to Bremen Town. Now you might think a fairy tale, how deep can that really go?
Well, there's always more beneath the surface, and this story, it's got a whole cast of characters. We've got a cow, a dog, a dish, a spoon. Yes, a dish and a spoon. A cat, a donkey, rooster, a mouse, a pig, even a kitten. And they're all on this journey to Bremen, each with their own reasons.
And that's what we're here to explore. What are those reasons? What are the key moments that shape this journey? For you, the learner, we want to unravel why these characters make the choices they do, what those choices tell us about cooperation, about standing on your own 4 feet, and about the unexpected detours life can throw your way. So should we jump in?
Absolutely. Let's start at the very beginning with a familiar scene. A little red hen, she's got her mind set on baking bread. But it's a big job, so she goes around asking for help. She asks the cow, the dog, the cat, even the dish and the spoon, each for a hand with the different parts of the process.
And boy, do they have some interesting excuses, right? The cow, well, she's got her sights set a little higher. She wants to jump over the moon. The dog, you get the feeling he's been burned before, maybe one too many empty cupboards. The cat, pretending to sleep, classic cat move. And the dish and spoon, they're all about that free-spirited life. What do you make of this initial reluctance to help? What's going on in their heads?
I think it speaks to how differently we all approach things, Like, what are our priorities? The cow, she's a dreamer, right? Big aspirations.
Right.
The dog might be a bit more jaded, maybe a little cautious. The cat, well, maybe he just wants to avoid responsibility, loves his beauty sleep. And the dish and the spoon, they're all about freedom. It really sets the stage for how they'll each approach this journey to Bremen, too.
Absolutely. But the little red hen, she's not deterred. She cuts the wheat, cleans it, grinds it. She does it all herself, no complaints. And then that moment when the aroma of fresh-baked bread fills the air.
Ah, yes. And wouldn't you know it, suddenly those who were too busy or too sleepy, they're back, drawn in by that delicious smell. The dog's stomach is definitely rumbling. Even the sleeping cat must have perked up.
Of course. And they all want a piece of that bread, right? But the hen, I gotta say, I think she's right to say no. If you didn't help with the work, why should you enjoy the reward? What do you think the story is trying to teach us here?
It's a simple but powerful lesson, isn't it? About effort and reward, about pulling your weight. The hen shows us that if you want to share in the benefits, you gotta share in the work.
Now, there's a fun little detail throughout this whole bread baking scene. The cat, he's playing his fiddle the whole time. First, it's Rising of the Moon, fitting for our moon-jumping cow, right? Then Cotton Eye Joe, Long Way Home, and even a merry jig.
Hmm.
What do you think the music adds to this part of the story?
Oh, that's a great question. It's almost like the cat is providing a soundtrack to everyone's actions or inactions. Maybe Long Way Home for those avoiding work, and the merry jig for his own enjoyment of not lifting a paw to help. It adds a layer of humor to the whole scene for sure. And, the learner, it makes you think, right? About those times when you've had to go it alone on a project, when you put in the work and felt that sense of accomplishment all by yourself.
Okay, so no bread for the slackers. What do? Well, the cow, the cat, and the dog, hungry and maybe a little disappointed, they decide to leave. They come to a fork in the road. Bremen Town one way, Old MacDonald's farm the other. A classic crossroads moment.
And here we see how individual motivations start to shape their journey, right? The cow, maybe realizing the moon isn't all it's cracked up to be, she heads back to the familiar comfort of Old MacDonald's. She does get one last jump over the moon, though, just for old time's sake. Shows that some dreams die hard.
That's right. And then things get really interesting. A fork, an actual fork in the road, runs by and mentions this fair and concert happening in Bremen Town. Now, this catches the cat's ear. He's a musician after all. Bremen, he decides, that's the place to be. And to convince the ever-hungry dog to come along, he dangles the promise of, what else? Dog biscuits.
A classic case of appealing to someone's, well, stomach. You see, the learner, how sometimes the path you take is influenced by something as simple as, well, a tasty treat. The cat, he's got his artistic ambitions and he knows how to get the dog on board. Soon, they're joined by a donkey and a rooster, also calling themselves musicians and heading to Bremen. What a band this is shaping up to be.
Right. Talk about an eclectic mix.
Yeah.
And as they set off for Bremen, the cat starts playing Walk Along John on his fiddle. It really highlights how new possibilities can open up when you're willing to take a chance, to try a different path, even if it's just for a plate of dog biscuits.
Now, their journey takes an unexpected turn. As night falls, the four travelers, tired and, you guessed it, hungry, they stumble upon a small house in the woods. And who's inside? Captain Hook, the pirate.
And he's not just hanging out. He's got 2 bags of gold marked Bremen Town Bank. And even more intriguing, a golden crown with Coley inscribed on it. Now, that raises the stakes, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Their journey shifts from simply finding fame and food to something bigger. There's a wrong that needs to be righted. The stolen gold and crown, they become a common goal, something that unites the animals in a way that, well, dog biscuits alone might not have.
And their plan to deal with the pirate is both brilliant and hilarious. The rooster crows, well, sort of. The dog growls menacingly, the donkey, he kicks the house hard, and our musical cat plays, get this, soft, scary music on his fiddle. They each use their own unique skills to create this symphony of chaos.
From the pirate's point of view, alone in that house with all those strange noises, it must have been terrifying. He thinks the place is haunted. And then the donkey bursts in. In the panic, the pirate flees, leaving all his loot behind. It really shows you how teamwork, even when it's a bit unconventional, can be surprisingly effective.
He's out of there. Our brave musicians, they enjoy a well-earned feast and then decide to do the right thing.
Cool.
Return the gold to Bremen and the crown to its rightful owner, King Cole in London. Now that's integrity.
The next morning, they split up again, each following their own path. The cat, entrusted with the crown, sets off for London, playing fish in the mill pond as he goes. He learns from the others that King Cole is Old King Cole, a jolly old soul who loves fiddle music. Good news for a traveling feline musician.
Meanwhile, the donkey, the rooster, and the dog set out for Bremen with the gold. They meet a little mouse who's also going to Bremen to visit his cousin at the fair, and they run into a pig farmer who warns them about a troll under the bridge, but also seems awfully worried about wolves. It's these little encounters, right, that really bring the story to life.
Exactly. It reminds us that even on a focused journey, there are all these other stories happening around us, other worries, other goals. And this encounter with the pig farmer, it actually foreshadows their next challenge, the troll bridge. They see 3 billy goats who've already dealt with the troll, so they get some insider information on how to handle him.
Smart move. Now, the billy goat's trick was to each claim a bigger, scarier friend was coming. So the mouse, the dog, and the donkey, they decide to try the same thing. First goes a tiny mouse, his footsteps barely a whisper. When the troll appears, he squeaks, "Wait till my friend the dog gets here." Then comes a dog, barking, "Just wait till the donkey arrives." Can you imagine the tension building as the troll waits for each supposedly bigger and badder opponent?
Oh, absolutely. It's that classic underdog story where cleverness trumps brute strength.
And then, here comes the donkey, click-clack, click-clack, over the bridge. The troll is probably picturing a feast, but the donkey, he doesn't need horns or sharp teeth, he's got hooves. And he lets loose with a kick so powerful it sends the troll flying, get this, over the moon. Quite poetic, considering that moon-jumping cow from earlier, huh?
Indeed. It's a great example of using what you've got, the learner, even if it seems unconventional. And that little aside about the troll's brothers, Blue Troll and Orange Troll, with their very specific tastes in meat, well, that adds a little humor to a tense situation.
On they go. And what do they hear but a kitten crying from the bottom of a well? The rooster swoops down and rescues her. It turns out she fell in thanks to a trick by that dark fairy. And get this, the kitten says she's been to London, even caught a spider in the Queen's palace.
Yeah.
You can imagine the mouse's relief. He was worried it might have been his cousin under that throne.
What a coincidence. It really is a small world, even in fairy tales. And now the kitten, wanting to be a musician, joins the band. Talk about an ever-growing ensemble.
They finally arrive in Bremen Town. Imagine that sight. A donkey, a rooster, a dog, a mouse, and a kitten walking in with bags of gold. They return the stolen money to the bank manager, who's obviously thrilled to have it back.
Safe to say he's breathing a sigh of relief. So, they've done their good deed. Now it's time for the fair. The mouse, he wants to find his cousin, so he heads off to the shooting gallery with the kitten. Meanwhile, the donkey, the rooster, and the dog, they're looking for the band, ready to show off their musical skills. It's a great example of how even a shared journey can lead to different individual goals.
Right. They had a common purpose for a while, but they each have their own things they're striving for. Now, the mouse, he runs into a snag. He doesn't know which day his cousin was planning to be at the fair, so he decides to try his luck at the cousin's blue house by the river. A little reminder that even the best laid plans can go awry. What about our musicians? Well, they find the bandstand empty, but do they give up? No way. They decide to make their own music. The donkey kicks the drum, the rooster pecks the piano, and the dog sings. What a performance that must have been. And there's that little vignette with the pie man who who refuses to give a boy named Simon a taste because he doesn't have a penny. It really paints a picture of the hustle and bustle of the fair, the different lives playing out.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into going to Bremen Town, we see how this seemingly simple story is actually full of layers. It's about individual journeys, unexpected teamwork, and the power of standing up for what's right. From the little red hen's determination to bake her bread, to the animals working together to outsmart the pirate and each following their own paths in Bremen, it teaches us about the importance of contribution, about facing challenges head on, and about the surprising turns life can take.
And it leaves us with so many questions, doesn't it? Will the cat find old King Cole in London? Will the mouse finally reunite with his cousin? And how did that donkey rooster dog concert go down in Bremen? Perhaps the learner, the most interesting journeys are the ones that leave us wondering, that spark our imaginations, or remind us that the best stories are often the ones we finish writing ourselves.